Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I am Sid Part 2, and I have some books to talk about tonight. I am late. I am not having a good day. So this will be a nice, refreshing thing to do for a while. So we got a couple people here. I'm not sure if the stream has started yet. That kind of worries me. Is anyone seeing me? I see I got comments, but I'm not seeing anything in the old stream window. That's worrisome. The stream has started. Thank you, Philip Kelton. I'll debate the logistics of YouTubing with you when you develop a channel. The salt is coming out. Not a night to get touchy with me. I am anyway. So let's go ahead and go through what we're talking about this week. We'll be beginning tonight with Predator Hunters 2, number 4. Jango Fett, Star Wars Age of Republic, number 1. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, number 1. Super Sons, Adventures of the Super Sons, rather, number 6. The Green Lantern, number 3. Batman, number 62. It came out on a Wednesday, number 4. And for Trade Talk this week, we'll be continuing the next volume of Silver Surfer, the omnibus by Dan Slott and Mike Allred. So, yeah. Plenty of stuff to talk about tonight. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Predator Hunters 2 wraps up with issue number 4. Let me adjust something real quick. Sorry. Unprofessional of me. Would you have it any other way? So Predator Hunters 2 wraps up with this issue. And I got to say, it's like a lot of these comic miniseries, I do feel it is a bit rushed. I feel like the pacing is a bit off, but I did quite enjoy it. I feel like if this would have been another issue, that this issue would have just been a fight, and I'm not necessarily against that, because a lot of this issue just is kind of in place of a fight, but I maybe would have liked the issue to wrap more, I would have liked another issue to maybe wrap some stuff up that gets wrapped up rather quickly here, but it's still all genuinely satisfying and really enjoyable. So yeah, the Predator completely destroys this American unit who call an air support, so he has to get the fuck up out of there. Our team has now found the Predator's camp and has set up charges to blow up his ship and whatnot. The Predator arrives and catches them on the thermal vision. They get in a firefight, and the kid that's led the team to the Predator's cave is returned, even though he was supposed to leave earlier in the issue. He's returned and says he will lead one of the team members to safety through a minefield that he has mapped out. And it's the only way he can think of to ensure their safety and kill the Predator along the way. So they start running through the minefield. The Predator runs up on the guy. Old dude ends up stepping on a mine, but it doesn't go off yet, so he challenges the Predator to a knife fight to draw him in, and then lets off the mine, killing them both. The kid and the guy have a touching moment as he passes on. That's why. Okay, let me change stuff up again. Sorry. The kid and the soldier have a touching moment as he passes on. And then just like this much of the book left, we wrap everything up. The kid decides that he doesn't want to leave Afghanistan anymore. He wants to come along, or he wants to stay where he can visit the body of his friend. And yeah, then they go back home and someone from the first volume is still alive and says, it's a very interesting story. And do you want to hear it? And that's the end of volume 2. So this is definitely going to get a volume 3. If not, that is one hell of a way to end it. Ultimately, yeah, I think this is a really good series. Volumes 1 and 2 are pretty damn satisfying, really enjoyable stuff. So I recommend picking them up. If you're a Predator fan, this is a pretty good self-contained comic run that isn't all about, huge continuity and doesn't get the stupid-ass xenomorphs involved in everything. CJ Carlson in the comments saying no Young Justice. I'm like, I'm not a big fan of Young Justice. I know Bendis is on it, and it's got me a little curious, but if I hear really, really outstandingly good things, sure. If Bendis hadn't just put me on a little bit of shaky ground, then maybe I would have. But I'm having some trouble with him at the moment, at least until the next issue of Superman comes out. And then we shall see. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on and talk about Star Wars Age of Republic, Jango Fett, #1. Generally speaking, I do not like the Star Wars comics, at least reading them in singles. I feel a lot of them are really meant for arcs. The Darth Vader stuff, I just happen to really like Darth Vader, so it's easier for me to read in arcs and in singles and just remember. But I don't pick up the main Star Wars line. I don't pick up much of anything else they put out with Star Wars because I love Star Wars, but I don't know, the reading them in serial chapters like that just doesn't work for me. Even though Star Wars is a tribute to film serials and stuff. But I do really like Jango Fett. I'm one of those weird guys who liked the retcon fan service, or at least attempt at fan service, with making Jango Fett Boba Fett's father and the leader of the progenitor of the clone army. I thought that was actually a really cool touch. I like that idea. I thought it was one of the few things in Attack of the Clones that actually worked. And it was, in my opinion, a genuine attempt to be like, okay, Boba Fett is this character that the fan base, for some fucking reason, just dug their claws into and hung on for dear life. And in the movies, he's completely fucking pointless and useless and honestly kind of dumb. But the fan base loved him, and so George Lucas was like, well, all right, I guess I'll try to do a little tip of the hat to them and come up with something for him. So, his father was the greatest bounty hunter ever, and he's actually not his biological son, but he's a clone. And so we're gonna go with that. He's a clone, and the whole army is clones. Hence the Clone Wars, that one single line in A New Hope. And I actually quite like that. So yeah, we get to Age of Republic Jango Fett, and what is this about? This is really misnamed. Kind of absolutely unequivocally misnamed, because this is not a Jango Fett story. This is 100% a Boba Fett story told heavily through Jango Fett. Team of bounty hunters is in a bar bragging about how they've got a easy bounty where they're just going to be able to make so much money in such an easy way. And they can't believe some rich asshole hired 4 bounty hunters to take on this simple task. But the thing is, there are only 3 bounty hunters. And then we get some backstory and we realize, the other bounty hunter is Jango Fett, because even though he's got the cushiest gig in the galaxy right now, so rumors say, he still has a taste for it. And he says, Jango arrives, Boba. So Jango arrives and says, I'm bringing on a 5th partner, but don't worry, he's only going to take from my cut. And it's Boba. It's young Boba Fett, and he's there to help learn the bounty hunting skills. He's there to get better at bounty hunting. Then we get a flashback to Jango taking the deal to be the progenitor of the clone army. And then we see what the situation is. Bunch of a girl about to run off with some unscrupulous character, and her father paid bounty hunters to scare him off and make sure she's returned home safely. She's kind of dumb and young and in love, and so when her boy toy runs off on her, she decides to do something rash, which is climb up on the balcony, and she almost falls off and dies. But Jango saves her. And then, as they're all discussing how well that whole situation went, they kind of are walking back to the ship, and Boba is suddenly taken hostage by 2 of the bounty hunters on the team. And Jango's told, hey, he's your kid. If you want him, you got to pay up, blah, blah, blah. One of the bounty hunters is like, oh, fuck no, I'm not involved in this. But he doesn't do anything to stop it. Then we get a flashback to see just how much does Jango care about Boba. Then we see on Kamino the young clones being trained, and the Camoan says, not a single clone unit has fallen below combat parameters. You must be very proud. And Jango says, what do I have to be proud of? Livestock bred as cannon fodder? Like you said, they're your creations. Then we get back, and young Boba proves what Jango has to be proud of as he turns the tables and kills both bounty hunters that tried to take him hostage. The third one, he decides to leave alive, and we get a conversation between the 2 of them as to whether or not that was the right decision. Ultimately, Jango decides, no, you were right. You did a lot of good just there. You saved yourself. You screwed up a little bit, but you stayed calm. You figured your way out of the situation. And most importantly, you built your reputation. I really liked that. I thought that was pretty good. And so it's like, it is, I maybe oversold it. It's definitely, I'd say it's a 50-50 split, maybe even 60-40 in Boba's favor. But like the whole story is about Boba Fett. It's just told with a lot of Jango Fett in it. So I thought that was pretty good. I don't know. I was pretty happy with this. So there's some other ones coming out. Let's see here. Age of Republic. We got a Mace Windu. No, just general Star Wars special. Anakin Skywalker, Count Dooku, and Padme Amidala. Maybe. I don't know. Fun issue though. I quite enjoyed this. Go ahead and move on. And talk about Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #1. I got quite excited by the prospect of this book, with Tom Taylor pitching it online and such. And, I got to say, it pretty much delivers. It is maybe a little more plot and evil bad guy prevalent than I'd hoped it'd be. I kind of really wanted it just to be Spider-Man in his neighborhood, but admittedly, I don't know how long you could make something like that last and keep it fresh and interesting. If you don't have any bad guys showing up, or if you make the bad guys completely tangential and not relevant to the story, just like they're there, but they're not connected to anyone. Bank robbery down the street or whatever. I think you could maybe do that, but I don't know how long you can make that last. So this seems to be doing a bit of a middle ground, and it's showing Peter dealing with trying to help people around and in the neighborhood. using his spider powers and whatnot. I quite like this moment where he saves this father and daughter, and he's offered money, and instead of taking it or outright refusing it, he says, there are two beggars down the street, names on like two of them are vets, and says, you want to beg me back for that, go help them out. I really, really like that. That's good. I really like the implications of that and how that works for Spider-Man. That was a really, really good scene. As it continues, you got Peter Parker carrying a neighbor's groceries and having conversations with her. I quite like this moment where he walks into her apartment with groceries in hand, and she says, Peter, would you do me a favor? And he's like, sure, I just need to put down the favors I'm currently carrying for you. I really like how quippy that is. And it's kind of like, yeah, I guess, just FYI. And that's where he kind of gets put onto this thing where he's being asked to help a lady who also lives in the building that he hasn't really met, but she needs help from someone who knows Spider-Man or a superhero, and he's trying his best to help her out, but doesn't quite work out. He goes to get him lunch and goes to get her lunch, and when he comes back, he sees that there's evil cars and whatnot. Rushes upstairs, and there's bad guys about to take her away or something, and he's like, oh no. Well, Spider-Sense says I'm going to get punched, but I better kind of roll with this one. Otherwise, they might think something weird. Let me just get black panel. I love how effective this page is. That is great setup. I really like that. So black panel, and then we just get, the reverse of that, where now he's waking up. So the punch actually took him out. He didn't just roll with it. It actually took him out. Spider powers and all. So there's mystery. There's intrigue. They wake up. The woman's apartment's smashed. The wall's broken through. Something clearly went wrong. Peter tries to play it off and go to his room to sleep so he can change into Spider-Man. But it turns out while he was out trying to get lunch, the neighbor brought over some laundry for him to do. So he goes to look in the basket, and suddenly, so there's something going on. But again, so as much of this issue is like setting up for some kind of big, supervillain antic plot kind of stuff, it still has a lot of heart to it with the moments in between the adventure, I guess, in between the action. Like action things that happen in this issue. Peter Parker stops a truck or saves a moving van. He climbs a building really fast and gets punched by some kind of mysterious villain. He finds these mysterious children hiding in his room. So there's the action of the book. The majority of the book is the personal relationship after or before or sometimes even during the action, during the big boom moments of the plot. I particularly like this as it ends, where he's like, oh, shocked, but then he's just like, kids want an apple? That's really, I really like the personality that Taylor writes Spider-Man with. So that's good. Then we get a backup also written by Taylor. This is bookended and kind of the through line of this backup is Aunt May writing a letter to Peter. And then we see the events of the day as Peter takes Mary Jane out to the Empire State Building, I believe, to have breakfast and watch the sunrise. Peter goes over to Aunt May's to help with something, but she kind of rushes out without telling him what's going on. He decides to follow her, but in the midst of following her, sees some kid being bullied, so he goes to help the kid out. Says some stuff to the bullies to try to scare him off, but then realizes he freaks him out a little too much. And I really like the voice that Taylor has for Peter Parker. No lie. Listen up, all of you. Lewis here is a personal friend of mine. You have a problem with him, you have a problem with me. Understand? Yes, Spider-Man? Oh, man, I didn't mean to scare you. Sorry, I really don't want this to be your supervillain origin story. This was just bad timing. I was stalking someone I care about, and you know what? Ignore that. It sounds bad. Hey, buddy, you care if I ride along and keep this conversation going? Sure thing. You saved one of my sisters once. She was one of your better ones. Definitely. Right. Everyone on the bus. Let's talk. So he stopped bullies, and he's trying to kind of like put the fear of God into him, but not too much. So he's not like Batmaning up or anything. And then he's just like, oh, hey, bus driver, I'm kind of stepping in it right now. Can you let me figure this out? And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. So, yeah, I don't know. I really, really love Taylor's voice for Peter Parker. I think it is just dynamite. Then we get to Mayor Fisk. I can't believe Kingpin's still the mayor. Mayor Fisk talking shit, something or other in front of a medical facility. Aunt May goes in, basically tells Kingpin to fuck off as she goes in. And then we get kind of like the reveal of the issue, which is Aunt May has cancer. And so it's a bit of a heartbreaker moment. It's kind of like scary in the midst of all this other stuff that's going on, but at the same time, it's a good reveal. It's a harsh one. Really dynamite stuff. I want to talk about the art a little bit too, because we get two different artists on here. So, who's who? We got Juann Cabal, Juann, Juann, Juann Cabal, doing some, nice clean Spider-Man art. This just feels very, very smooth and very natural for Spider-Man. It's like, yep, this is how you draw a solid Spider-Man book. We get cool dynamic action looking stuff. I always like this trick where you get, multiple versions of the character. There's got to be a name for that, right? Is there a name for this in comics? It feels like there should be. Stuff like that. There's not a lot going on artistically in this issue outside of the way panels are laid out and stuff. In the backup, we get a different artist who is Marcelo Ferreira. Yeah, can't talk. He does some good stuff. I like the way he draws like Mary Jane in the Spider-Man costume. That's cute. That's fun. This is a bit dirtier, darker shading kind of thing. Not like atmospherically. It just feels like that's more his style. And I don't know. I quite like it. It works really well considering that this is like them watching the sunrise and having breakfast together. And so the art does kind of take a shift as soon as the sun rises, which is neat. There's really not much else to talk about in this one. Kind of like a Ditko-y feel, a little bit. That might be too general. I don't review Spider-Man enough, so that might be too general a thing to say. But I don't know, like the creepy crawly on the walls thing feels very, very Ditko-esque to me. So yeah, I don't know. I really like this. It's a good book. I'm glad I added it. Tom Taylor piqued my interest, and I'm gonna keep going with it. Coon Rangers has a lot of big changes for Spidey that isn't in his main book in almost the past year. Okay. Knowing Marvel and how they pretty much never let Aunt May die with anything. I fear devil deal coming. Conceivably, though, I feel like they've this generation of writers and stuff have kind of realized and lived with the mistake of For One More Day, and I think they might directly be setting up those circumstances so they can reverse it proper. Because the thing For One More Day was, Aunt May can live if the marriage is absolved, and now Nick Spencer's over in the main book, kind of getting MJ and Peter back together. And so at the same time, Aunt May is getting sick again. So maybe the implication is him trying to continue this relationship is interfering with that deal. Maybe the point is to, take the deal off or something. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on and talk about Adventures of the Super Sons, number 6. The best thing about this book continues to be the way that Tomasi writes the boys. There's just dialogue all over this book, and I love every second of it. Tomasi's got a great voice for Damien, especially just in the actions and even the things he says. Damien's an animal lover. He obsesses over critters. And so when animal on this weird alien planet is under threat, Damien's got to come in and save the thing and just start cuddling it like a child. It's absolutely adorable. And he sleeps with it that night. It's so cute. That's so just on point for Damien, on brand. So I really like that. And of course, what does the bad guy do when he finds the boys is it's Rex Luthor. He's threatening the animal. So Rex kind of re-explains his whole plan, which is a bit pointless, but it only takes up maybe 2 pages total. Before he's shot in the back of the head by some guy, Tommy Tomorrow. Never heard of this dude. But he's got a Red Robin symbol, a Superman cape, a bat logo on his belt. So fuck if I know what's going on here. Rex Luthor is shot, and Damien and John are dragged away since they have dampening collars on. And he's taking them to a planet that's just the whole planet's a prison because they blew up his machine in the last issue or whatever. I have been okay, this book is good, but I kind of want them to get to the point. But after the scare I'm getting in Superman, this book can run for a billion more issues where nothing happens but the boys talking to each other, and I'll be fine with it. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Let's see here. McPick says, it's great how the Super Sons, the kids are in character, whereas John and Damien outside, the mostly out of character changes completely. I think I get what you're saying. See, I haven't been reading them in much else. They just haven't really appeared in much else that I've read lately. But fair point if you say so. I haven't really read them in much else, so. Anyway. I didn't talk about the art in this at all. It's just fine. We got spoiled with Jimenez when the initial run started. So everything in here is just it's cool. Damien doing his whole silhouette thing. I like that. And Damien and John on screen together are great. So always enjoyable. McPick says Teen Titans Damien is the worst right now. That's disappointing. I was really kind of interested in that run with what's his name, Bernard Chang. doing the art. He kind of grabbed my interest, but I don't know. I'm just not a Teen Titans guy. All right, let's go ahead and move on and talk about The Green Lantern, number 3. Cop vs. God, Slave Lords of the Stars. Oh, God, I love it. I love it to death. So when this got announced, this cover was pretty much just immediately blowing up. It's kind of hilarious, just the way that worked out. Grant Morrison pitched the whole run. It's like, oh yeah, it's just the bit down to basics, Green Lantern Space Cop, police procedural in space is what I'm gonna be going for. Issue 3, he's gonna arrest Gold. That's so on brand for Grant Morrison. It's absolutely hysterical. All right, so for those just joining us, the Earth has been stolen. It has been shrunk down to microscopic size, and it is now being sold off at auction to a bunch of seedy, creepy figures. We got some old classics in here. There's a Mongol Sister. Got the Dominion. Oh, they even got the bee aliens. I can't remember them. Those were used in Morrison's Justice League run. So this is another big thing Morrison was really hyped to do, is reintroduce a bunch of aliens that we haven't seen before. Oh, you see the guy with the red stars, or the guys with the purple suits and red stars? That's a classic. I can't remember the name off the top of my head though. Oh, we even got Steppenwolf in there. So yeah, we got a lot going on there, and then we've got the race that Ken Jarreau is a part of. They're selling off these stolen planets to the highest bidder, and Earth is on the auction block. It's in a bidding war between the Dominion and Steppenwolf. But suddenly at the last minute, a high bidder comes in and says 10,000 jelly stars, and thus I doth decree mine first and final offer. And that is God. God is bidding on the Earth. But the Green Lantern Corps, led by Hal Jordan, or a small unit of it, is waiting in the rafters for the auction to be finished before they move in. Suddenly, the Earth is sold. The Green Lanterns spring into the action and start fighting, and yada 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 yada. God's about to take his prize of the Earth when Hal Jordan says, "Hold it right there. What does God need with an auction?" Kidding. He might as well have. So he takes the guy to task and says, "Hey, listen, you are in trouble. You're trafficking in illegal planet smuggling and all this other stuff." And he's like, "But the people of the beings of the Earth wish for me to guide them. They want to be a part of my flock, and the vast majority agree. The microbes and amoebas are in perfect agreement." It's like they don't get a vote. It's pretty good. So Hal has to kind of send a little construct of himself down there to talk to some people, figure out what's going on the Earth. It turns out that being in this little biodome of extra planets, which Liam Sharp does some really cool art to show us what that looks like from this microscopic version of Earth's perspective, they're being exposed to the sunlight that's giving them superpowers, and it's great. And they've also been a little bit brainwashed by the planet snatchers to begin with. And so Hal has to try to convince everybody that this is a bad plan, and they got to vote unequivocally against being in this guy's collection. So it reveals what the dude actually looks like, since it's not actually God, but it's a planet eater, being that ages planets for 1,000 years until they're ripe and perfect, and then eats them down to the core. And it's like, it's really bad how brainwashed the Earth is, he says. Speaking on behalf of the United States and everybody else, we like to think we've moved on from judging people on the basis of their appearance, Green Lantern. I was like, are you for real? So Hal has to fight God a little bit here, and then decides, you know what? No, the Earth clearly is against better judgment. I am placing it under arrest. The people of the Earth are very displeased with this, calling Hal a fascist and saying Green Lantern sucks. Planet Earth, you are gamma intoxicated and clearly no longer in control of your decisions or your actions. I'm placing all of you under arrest until you come to your senses. Hal Jordan just arrested Earth for a DUI. The entirety of the planet for a DUI. That's pretty good. And like, what I really like about this is he explains to everybody like what happens. And he's like, then the shepherd carves up the planet and eats everything down to the core. I know you can't condemn future generations of that. And the guy's like, I think we can live with it. Global warming commentary, nice. Ultimately, Hal defeats the poser, the God poser, and saves the Earth. The other Green Lanterns capture the space pirates that are the auctioneers that have tried to flee and that set up the whole bidding in the first place. And then they discover that their ship was being powered by slave labor, mostly children who, while exposed to the ship's horrific engines, have been aged and mutated beyond saving, to the point where they're just begging for, some of them are begging for help, most of them are just begging for death. This, of course, pisses Hal Jordan right the fuck off. And he impales the guy who's responsible, saying, you all saw it was self-defense. Let's clean up this mess, Green Lanterns. So that's I don't know, it's an interesting place to leave it. Like, that's clearly wrong. Like, what this guy did is clearly fucking awful, but stabbing him possibly to death, I mean, those nails look pretty damn fatal. Clearly wrong as well. So has Hal Jordan gone over the edge? Has he crossed the line? What's going on with that, man? It's pretty scary, pretty freaky kind of moment right there, in all honesty. One thing I will say on Liam Sharp's art, I really do love it to death. I'll say that the constructs do look kind of old school. The way he's drawn the constructs here is pretty solid, and this is kind of consistent throughout the issue. When he's drawing the constructs, it's very traditional looking, and it's not just with Hal, it's with everyone. Like this boxing glove, the ship, the hands, all of it very traditional, kind of classic Green Lantern art looking, which isn't wrong by any stretch of the imagination. It's just what's the line? What's the word here? It's just that we've kind of modernized the way we draw Green Lantern's constructs. We've really taken advantage of computers and layers and working with those tools to give them more of a kind of actual glow as opposed to an imitation glow. So I guess I'll talk about it here. So here we have this panel of Hal shining a light on the Planet Eater, which, not that I'm bugging on Sharp's art, because that is absolutely terrifying. It would have been really easy to like, oh, Planet Eater, you bet he's just going to look like Galactus, but no, that is some fucking Lovecraft shit. But anyway, so like Hal's shining a light on the Planet Eater here. And what you've got there is a bunch of greens, and the way he's making it look bright and glowy is by having the colorist blend those greens in with a bunch of white and try to make it look like it's shining and glowing. And that's a very traditional way to do lighting and glowing and stuff. But nowadays, when we do glows in post in computer programs, we add an effect, and it has a very different look, but it looks more realistic to it on some levels. Whereas, you know, like the police line here, the glow on there is just drawn in and kind of, you know, expected. You just kind of take it as after the fact, more or less. But anyway, so it's just, I don't know, it's weird. It's I've gotten very used to the modern way it's done. It's kind of trippy and weird to see it done more in an old school way in a modern comic. And I don't know if I have a problem with it, because I do really like Sharp's art, but it does stand out as different to me. So I don't know. Something to consider. Overall, good issue. Questioning what's going to happen with Hal. After that, you know, a little step too far that he just took there. Let's see, your comments say that is so weird, arresting a whole planet, and Fulton says, no, it's not wrong. It is illegal and maybe damaging to Hal, but I don't think killing the horrible psychopath's wrong. Also, who's the guy going to answer to? The Guardians? Is there a Green Lantern jail? Yes, there is a Green Lantern jail. Do I really want to get into the discussion on abuse of power in the hands of law enforcement? I really don't want to get into that. I'll say in universe, yes, Hal is wrong. He has just very much violated Green Lantern code, which he does left and right. So usually that's not a problem, because usually he's completely justified and he's, you know, being authentic and everything. This is clearly painting him as he has gone too far. Hal is a bit of a loose cannon right now. That's definitely been established since issue 1. He's kind of off on his own, fucking shit up. But that's clearly what's going on. Is Hal's a bit off his rocker. He's really good at being Green Lantern, but he's also in a bad place, is the implication from issue 1. So is Hal, so he's clearly in violation of Green Lantern code, and there are measures in the Green Lantern Corps to deal with abuse of power like that. That's what the Alpha Lanterns are all about. They're basically internal affairs. And Philip Kelton's going on a whole thing, but in comic book, the people who you don't kill come back and kill everyone. Yeah, but anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Talk about Batman number 62. So if you follow me on Twitter, and you should, I'm Sid Part 2 on there as well, at Sid Part 2 rather. I tweeted a comic review spoiler about Batman 62. So get ready for that in live action now. This may be on par, just as good as Batman #1 by Tom King. And that's saying a lot, because Batman #1, in my humble opinion, is one of the best Batman stories ever told. It is damn near a perfect comic book issue, a perfect single issue of a comic, and it is just a wonderfully fantastic Batman story. Batman 62, yeah, very, very much in line with that. I absolutely love how this works. So we got King and Gerads on it. So this is a nice little thing to get just shortly after Mr. Miracle wrapped up. This is one of the longest Tom King comics I've read too. Not just Batman comics, but period. Tom King's very much a fan of minimalism in writing, especially dialogue, monologue, stuff like that. And so this issue surprised me with just how much of it is, there's a lot in here. There's a lot going on written out. And Tom King's, doing a lot of writing here. He really cashed his paycheck this week, or earned his paycheck this week. He didn't just repeat himself 25 times. So this issue is entirely in Batman's head, and I don't just mean the narration. For those of you wondering about the cliffhanger, this is about Batman thinking. This entire issue is all in Batman's head as far as how he thinks when he's in a trap, what he does, where his mind goes, which is just really cool to think about the focus on one thing at a time, the processes put into how he escapes these death traps and everything that's going on during it. I thought that was really cool that we get all this, narration in the moment of Batman trying to figure out what to do. And the situation is just, it's gross. It's just nasty. At one point, Pig comes over with a bucket of blood and just starts pouring it down Batman's throat. Blood in your nose, in your mouth, gathering thick in your throat. Stop screaming. Swallow the blood. Breathe the blood. Copper and warm. Forget the blood. Like, oh God, that's disgusting. But it's really interesting about, like, okay, he's attempting to drown me. Drink it. He has me tied up. Focus on the rope. Let him talk. I really like the way this breaks down how Batman approaches and thinks about a problem. So there's like multiple levels to the way he's dealing with the issue, which is really clever. It's one of the most insightful things into Batman's character I think we've ever gotten, because this gives you so much of his psychology, of how he thinks in the moment. And I really, really like that. Because on one level, he's thinking he's trying to focus his head just on the moment, get out of the trap. But he can't stop thinking about tangential things that, while they are important, they're ultimately distractions to what he is doing, and that is costing him. Pig has nearly no dialogue in the entire issue, but Batman keeps saying in his monologue, he's talking, let him talk, talk is good. But we don't see anything, and Batman keeps commenting on the fact that he cannot hear him, which is really, really interesting. So he's like, he keeps just thinking about, why can't you hear him? Why can't I hear him? How did I get here? How did I get in this situation? Well, let's see here. Bane and Alfred and everything. No, I can't focus on that right now. I need to focus on the moment. And so there's just a lot going on here that's really, really interesting. At one point, there's a whole kind of treatise on Professor Pig as a character and what he means. Pig, P-Y-G, is not just a reference to Oink Oink the animal. It's a reference to Pygmalion, the story of Pygmalion, which is a Greek sculptor carved a statue that was more beautiful than any human, so perfect that he realized he could never fall in love with anything else, fell in love with the statue, and his love gave it life because of how perfect it was, and they lived happily ever after. And that's really interesting, especially since Pig is a surgeon and brutalizes people, carving them up. So yeah, it's really good. Ultimately, Batman keeps just thinking on the situation, can't figure out how to get out, how to escape, what's going on. But then he has the realization that he needs. Since he can't remember how he got there, he can't focus on how he got there. He needs to accept that what's going on is not real. So he stops fighting Pig and he looks at him and says, how did I get here? How do I get out? Now we get 3 panels of them staring at each other. Pig says, little pig, let me in. Pig takes off the mask. Under the mask is Damian Wayne. Oh, no, by the hair of my chinny chin. Damian says, then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow you all, or blow your house in. And then Damian just walks away, leaving Batman there. So Batman says, evaluate, reassess, a metaphor, a myth, a story, a dream. And the arc is called Nightmares. I really like that. It's such a weird, trippy fucking ending. And it's so apparent that Damian is not real. That Pig was not real. So what the fuck is going on? It all becomes so apparent that the issue is inside Batman's head. Literally. I'm kind of freaking out about how much I like that. I really, really like that. This is a good ass issue. No lie. This is a good fucking comic. Gerads on the art just makes it so damn creepy. There's so much blood everywhere. The hanging pig corpses. This can feel so generic, but just the reds and yellows and greens of everything that comes out makes this look so freaky. I love this panel here, since it's from Batman's perspective and it's the blood being poured on him. That's so creepy and weird, and it's just unsettling. There's so much going on in this issue that just gets me, man. It absolutely gets me. Pigs cutting off flesh from the slaughtered pigs and eating it raw. That's so creepy and weird. Pig has not been written exceptionally well. He appeared in that issue or that story arc of Batwoman, and he was all right there, but it wasn't exceptionally well. Here he's just so damn unsettling, and the fact that he's in Bruce's head doesn't change that. I
really, really like it. Like, this is the big hint right here. Batman throws 2 batarangs, and Pig just catches them. Pig's a lot of things, but a martial artist with super reflexes, he is not. So there's your big hint that this isn't real. And I really, really like that. The look of this is just so weird. Absolutely fantastic. You get in Gerads with like this distorted reality kind of thing, which is really cool too. So yeah, great issue. One of King's best. So creepy. So unsettling. I really, really like that. All right. Final single issue of the week is It Came Out on a Wednesday. Number 4. Bunch of short stories. I absolutely love the covers to these books. They're so good. I think this is a really neat one because they incorporated a bunch of the other covers that the series has had. There's the issue 3 and issue 2 cover. And yeah, and even issue 1, just down in the corner. It's really cool that the artist did that. I thought that was a great touch. I actually know and not personally, but I know of the artist that did this. He worked on the Legend of Wonder Woman series. So that's really cool. I love that this is what we keep doing with this title and these covers, with these monsters breaking into comics and stuff. So you got these, just glass shattering of a comic shop, and the books are all being, blown apart and stuff. So it looks like, a giant monster fight crashed into a comic book store. It's really cool. All right, so I got a couple stories in this one to go through. Legends of Log, an attack of the serpent creeper. There's this weird thing that's like a sentient log with an axe and a bird friend. They get attacked by a giant snake. The snake is murdered, and the bird is saved at the end. This is another one of those ones where it's like, okay, this is clearly part of a bigger series, and please just give me one and done stories. I want one and done stories with characters that don't exist anywhere else. As much as I like the idea behind this book and what they're going for with it, the atmosphere, the mood that they're going for with it, every time I read it, I have the exact same complaint. I don't want these tie-ins. Unless the tie-in works perfectly on its own and you never have to read anything else. And even then, still, it just doesn't feel like what it should be, in my opinion. Next, we have the actual Roger in Cosmic Flukes. This is another one that's continued somewhere else. Kid accidentally gets superpowers. Is pretty much the whole issue. Not particularly impressed. Not anything like horror, in my opinion, really. At least not this preview they gave us, or this issue. So it didn't really do anything for me. The highlight of the issue is this short story, A Mother's Devotion. This mom's kid is really, really sweet, but is being bullied mercilessly at school. She's working on something in the garage when the issue starts. Being bullied mercilessly at school, just kid isn't safe, and mom tells him, listen, if you get bullied, tell your teacher and make her call me. And the kid doesn't want to do that because then he fears he's going to get bullied worse. But the mother ends up catching them bullying her son when she comes to pick him up from school. So that night, the bully's asleep, wakes up because he hears a sound, looks out his window, and loses an arm. And then there's this just monstrosity of mechanical mayhem coming in the windows, claws and saws and sharp objects, and just the kid starts screaming. And then we see the thing from the outside as the mother and son embrace, and the mother has the remote control. So that's what she was building in the garage. Shit! I really like that. It's not scary, but it's really unsettling. It just, oh, that's so creepy. Like there's that, it taps into a really interesting part that horror doesn't get to too often. At least I'm not aware of a lot of horror that does this well. It's not scary because, oh my God, that poor kid. It's not scary because, oh, violence. It's scary because you get it. You kind of want that to happen on some degree. You can see what would lead to that, and you sympathize with that action. And that's the scary part. When you realize, yeah, bullies are fucking horrible children. But they're just that, the children, right? It's the problem is when a bully goes on. And I say that as someone who was bullied growing up. I get it. But the idea that someone would do that to a kid is just, that's the terrifying part, because you can see it. You could see yourself being that. So I thought that was really good. Then we get Lines of Morality, Spirit Guild Lines of Morality. Another tie-in continuation thing. I just got to learn to deal with that in this book, because I gotta say, when we get those short one-and-done stories, those are fantastic. It's about two spirit aliens that have possessed the bodies of weasels and are trying to hunt a rabbit to satiate these urges that they don't really understand, those urges being hunger. A rabbit ends up getting away, and they decide to let it go because they've already caught some others, and they've got work to do on Earth. And it's mysterious and bleak, and like, still not going to read it. Admittedly, I'm not sure if this is a tie-in or not. It doesn't really say to go read something else. It just kind of ends. So if it is a one and done, it's way too high concept, I guess. Interview with the cover artist, so that was cool. Appreciate that kind of thing. Mr. Crypt, little Christmas comic, a little late, but that's fine. Didn't really do much for me. Helgorithm, Employee 002, Sabat Shark. This was a weird one. So this issue is probably the worst this book has been for me so far, because there's only one really good story in it. This is a weird one. It's kind of like I guess I'd say like a Judge Dredd kind of future, it seems to be. But with like a bounty hunter that we're following or something. So we get this this shark robot killer person. His mother begging for her life. The shark says, "Ha, fuck you," shoots her in the face. She's like, "But I have a kid." Doesn't matter, shoots her in the face anyway. Literally laughs over her dead body. Then the kid walks in. And you guys like, "Oh shit." And I'm like, okay, it's an interesting way to start the story. And then it says, "I'm with the Helgorithm. I'm a bounty hunter. Your mama wasn't exactly a saint, kid." And the kid says, "I know." I'm like, wait, what? And then like the whole issue is about this bounty hunter trying to get this kid whose mother literally he just killed, trying to get this kid away from these assassins that were after his mother and after him now. And I'm like, and the weird part is the kid's just totally cool with this guy. He's like thanking him. He's like, "Oh, you're cool, man." I'm like, dude literally just killed your mother. And the implication is that this guy's kind of a son of a bitch, but with a soft spot. But ultimately we end with this kid being all thankful and shit for everything he's done for him. I'm like, I get hating your parent, but if you're going to try to sell me on this, you need to do more legwork than that, because just I know she wasn't a saint. That's not enough for me. That's like, no, I'm waiting the whole story for a backstab or something, and it just never comes. And I'm like, dude killed your mother and laughed over the body. I can't with that shit. That I just don't buy for a mile. And we got the Wicked Righteous Genesis, which is kind of a post-apocalyptic thing with this group of wanderers coming together. And yeah, I don't even remember how this ends. Oh, right. Okay, so the group of wanderers come together and then seek out someone with a map, and the map's going to take them somewhere. And I guess the implication it's Disneyland. I don't know. To be continued in the Wicked and the Righteous Exodus. Yeah, I'm still not going to read it. Sorry. So yeah, this is just one of those things. Like, I love the concept of this book, and when it does it right, it does it so right. I just wish that were more often. I don't know to be fair, I don't know what the economics of this book are. I don't know if people pay to get their stories featured in this book, or if the book is paying for stories or what, but it really needs standalone art. It just needs standalone stories. Everything about this title is begging for standalone horror, and it's not getting it. It's getting people marketing their books, which, if you're a creator, I totally understand why you'd want to do that. But the editor or publisher on this book needs to be more thorough in vetting what it's going to publish, because the stories that it is publishing just do not work for me, by and large. I'm going to keep picking up the book because it's cheap and it's got stuff in it that makes it worthwhile. But ultimately, I paid $2 for a 3-page story that I actually liked, and a bunch of stuff I didn't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I paid $2 for a 5-page story, is what this comes down to, because that's the only thing that made this issue. That and the cover, the only things that made this issue worthwhile to me. So, enjoy the series, enjoy the concept. Don't enjoy everything about the book, though. Okay. Let's go ahead and move along to trade talk. So I'll be ignoring comments from this point on. Not that people have been commenting very much tonight. And we'll go ahead and go into Silver Surfer Volume 2. All righty. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Trade Talk. This week, we continue on the Silver Surfer series by Dan Slott and Michael Allred by talking about Volume 2. The name of the volume escapes me because I just have the omnibus that I'm working through. But the title of the video is right down there. So this is interesting because this series is mostly and quite fantastically one and dones or very limited connection, like maybe do two issues before they continue the story. And this one is really no exception to that. There's an ongoing arc in this issue. There's an ongoing story in this arc, but it's not the whole arc. We start with with a preview from one of the all-new Marvel .1s, where Silver Surfer takes Dawn to an ocean planet to view the cosmic rays, saying it's quite spectacular. And she's like, oh, cool. So it's like the Northern Lights back on Earth. And he says, no, it's nothing like anything on Earth. Yeah, I kind of get that feeling when I'm with you. A lot. So they go to see the cosmic rays. That's gorgeous, and I love it. I absolutely adore that kind of thing. That is so fucking funny. It really shouldn't work on any level, but that is so cool. With Mike Allred's art, oh, that is just gorgeous. So anyway, while they are viewing the show, some pirates come to try to rob the crowd, and Silver Surfer has to fight them off. But one of the Rays is injured in the fighting, and Silver Surfer uses the power cosmic to save it. And Dawn and he are off on more adventures. And we get issue number 6, Imperfections, where they have to keep making stops because Dawn is hungry and has human needs like the bathroom. Silver Surfer gets kind of annoyed by this at one point where she asks to go back to Earth because suddenly her tonsils hurt. And he's like, all right, no, listen, here. He just uses the power cosmic to remove her tonsils. And this very much upsets her. And she demands ice cream because when you get your tonsils taken out, you get ice cream. It's a thing. He's like, but you don't need it. There was no pain. It's like ice cream. And so he promises to make it up to her to get her the best ice cream in the galaxy. So they go to a place he's never been to get ice cream. I love the imagery there. That is absolutely fantastic. Good on you, Mike Allred. There's no better way to capture that, really. Alien Diner. It's so classic. It's just the fucking surfboard up against the window. Oh, I love it. Anyway, and this is the planet of perfection, where the limited population is all devoted to being the absolute best they could possibly be at their given lot in life. So there's a ranking system about who's what. So there's tour guide 1, and then there's street dancer 1, then there's warrior 1, but there's also warrior 2, and yada yada yada. But because Silver Surfer's preferred method of payment is to just transmute things into gold to pay for things like the ice cream that they got on this planet, he transmuted some ice cream into gold. It's like, will this cover? And they're like, oh yeah, but Banker 1 saw that and was like, no, you're fucking up our whole economy by doing this. You can't. That's not perfect. That's not okay. Which is quite hilarious. And so calls the police on him and gets Warrior 1 involved. And so Silver Surfer has to fight Warrior 1. And I like some of the stuff that Warrior 1 says. I am the perfect weapon. What's the line? That you have, yet you face perfection. I too have met the soldiers of other systems, all of them dreaming to die in battle, and that makes me laugh, for it's the fate of all Warrior 1s to die in their beds, because a Warrior 1 wins every battle he's in. I really like that. That's really well thought out. I like the thought put into that. That's really cool. Ultimately, Dawn realizes, as Silver Surfer's battling Warrior 1, Dawn realizes that the whole system is based on rank and file and formulations, bureaucracy. So she figures out the way to defeat Warrior 1 is to remove his badge, so he's no longer Warrior 1 and is not allowed to fight anymore. That actually works, which is kind of hilarious. So Dawn saves the day, and they jet off into space together yet again. And because Dawn is more the stop and see, let's take a minute type, as they're leaving the system, they see a beautiful sight of some stars, a 5-star system performing some kind of alignment. And if had not been for her and her desire to stop, and every so often, the Silver Surfer would have flown right by it, which is something he's never actually seen before, which is cool. Then we have We Are Sailors on the Endless Sea of Night. I love that title. That's so fucking like Ernest Hemingway. This is a very Star Trek kind of episode, or issue rather, where they're flying and then they find blank space. No stars, no nothing as far as the eye can see. It's just black space. And Surfer's never found anything like this. And of course, Dawn hasn't. So she's like, do you really want to go in there? And he's like, yes. She's like, then let's do it. I'm in. And they just start flying through the void, speculating about what it is, what it can mean. And the Surfer gets close to something they finally find when they're, maybe it's like a halfway point. But as he gets close to it, suddenly the darkness comes and swallows up Dawn, and Silver Surfer can't find her. So he and the board have to separate and go looking for her. And this is kind of a neat little way to give us just a flashback or a synopsis of what their adventures have been like since they've been hanging together. And so we just get a bunch of like, oh, why does Dawn wear a ladybug dress? It's because when she and her twin sister were born, her dad was afraid he wouldn't be able to tell them apart, so he immediately bought Dawn a ladybug onesie and her sister a bee onesie, dots and stripes. And even though the dad was obviously able to tell them apart because he's a father, both siblings have kept that going. So anytime the Surfer has needed to adjust or change Dawn's clothing for her, make clothing for her, he's always made sure to keep her dots. It's really sweet, cool character stuff. We get a story about how I don't remember. Oh, how the Surfer atomized the surfboard, and how the surfboard doesn't actually really like doing that. And so Dawn talked to the surfboard and made sure to let Norrin know not to do that anymore. Then we get a story about Dawn almost being shotgun wedding to some space hillbillies, but Norrin had to save her. And then we get a story about Dawn being about them finding some family where the kid got lost in a maze, and they had to send the surfboard in to save the kid. And then we get a story about how Norrin lost an arm because Dawn convinced him to silver down and enjoy some food on a picnic. And Norrin was very, very traumatized by that because he was luckily able to reconnect the arm and silver back up, but he says he'll never, ever silver down again. And that's when he realizes the darkness took Dawn, but not him, because he's got his shielding up with the power cosmic. So he says to drop the shielding, and then he's able to find Dawn and save her. And they're able to destroy the... They find that this is some kind of trap that's lured several people to their deaths, and so they decide to destroy the trap, thus making sure no one will ever succumb to that fate again. And suddenly space is restored. Norrin realizes that he almost lost Dawn there, though, so to make sure that she's never under threat again, he takes a piece of himself and wraps it around her finger as a ring, so he'll always be able to find her. And she says, so Norrin? He says, yes. Does this mean we're going out? That's the end of the issue. It's really sweet. It's really cute. I love the look on the faces there. It kind of tells you everything you need to know. I really, really enjoy that. So yeah, we just get a lot of these are all really great one and done stories, and then we get issue 8, and we begin the arc of the this volume, which is Worlds Apart. There's a planet of survivors of Galactus. Most of them the last of their race. When one of them dies, they all try to remember their stories, that person's culture, because no one else would be able to pass it down. Meanwhile, Dawn and Norrin are in space together. She's sleeping under the stars, and Norrin's thinking like always, and decides to have a conversation with the surfboard, and comes up with a cool idea for Dawn to let her fly the surfboard. And they're having a wonderful time with it. I love this moment. We're upside down in space. Space has no upside down. How are you doing this? I know. I have no idea. And then they just look at each other and laugh and just have a great time. I absolutely adore the relationship that's built between these two. Inadvertently, though, they end up crashing on this planet of Galactus survivors. Norrin silvers down for the time, but eventually the board comes, everyone freaks out, and Norrin decides to silver up at that point, and everyone realizes who he is. It's the Herald of Galactus, the Herald. They're all terribly angry with him, and Dawn says, I don't understand. Why are they so afraid of you? And then the truth comes out. Norrin, of course, hadn't told her for all this time, and so he goes off into space since she demands to be left alone, since she clearly doesn't know anything about him. And then Dawn is informed by all the survivors that she's been left with what Norrin did, what Galactus did to their planets, and how they need Norrin to get out of here now, because as a herald, he leaves behind a particular trail. Dawn finally agrees to see Norrin again. He comes back, but as he explains his side of the story, she's like, it's not good enough for her. And suddenly Galactus has arrived, since he's been following Norrin's trail all this time. God, just the way Michael Allred draws Galactus. It's so quintessentially perfect. It's exactly how Galactus should look, always. Anyway. So, Galactus is here, and Norrin vows to save the planet, as a way to make it up to Dawn. But he says, you need to get out of here first, though. And she's like, no, if you're going to save them, you're going to save me too. And that's how you're going to show me that you actually give a damn. So Norrin kind of goes balls to the wall and uses the board and himself to really, and I quote, push ourselves harder than ever before. Today we shall test the very limits of the power cosmic and shatter them. As he plants his feet on one side of the moon and sticks the board on the other side and moves an entire moon across the sky to use as a weapon against Galactus. A weapon that ultimately looks really, really impressive and really, really cool, and has no effect. Galactus realizes the surfer attacked him, and attempts to reclaim the power cosmic he had granted Norrin. And Galactus sets down and ready to start eating the planet alive. Norrin was actually bluffing and wanted to try to get a surprise attack in on Galactus, and still that doesn't really work out. And during their battle, Norrin goes over his origin story, that his planet was under threat, but he volunteered to be Galactus's herald to spare it. And so one of the survivors realizes, of course, Mighty Galactus, hear me. Spare my world, and I'll be your herald. And then we get kind of like an I am Spartacus moment as all the survivors of all these different planets volunteer the same thing to save their new home. But Galactus refuses them because he knows everything of their planets. He's been there, done that. They're useless to him. But there's one Earthling in the crowd, Dawn Greenwood, and she says, Galactus, spare this world, and I will be your herald. And Galactus agrees. So he begins to convert Dawn, much to Norrin's displeasure. You can't have her, I won't let you. He begins to convert Dawn as the survivors of the planet try to get away in their spaceships and then begin to target Galactus and say that the only reason they will not attack him is if he lets the girl go, because they don't want to trade her life for theirs. And they decide the bargain isn't good enough. Go ahead, take their world, feast on it, but just let the girl go. So they've all got escape pods and they're leaving the planet yet again. It's very tragic for all of them. So ultimately, Galactus agrees, lets Dawn go, and consumes the planet. Norrin is charged with finding them a new home and make sure it's the best planet he could find. And that ends the chapter with no real resolution between Dawn and Norrin, which is, really tragic and sad for them, because the beginning of the book shows how much their relationship has grown kind of off panel. But he, if not lied, clearly, didn't reveal some key facts. And that's very, very hurtful to her for good reason. Because when you help kill planets, good reason for joining or not, you can't hide something like that from someone. So yeah, really, really good series. Continue to love it. Fantastic ideas. Absolutely gorgeous. Perfect artwork. So damn good. Mike Allred on the art is like at least 67.5% the reason to buy this. Even if the story sucked, the art would still be gorgeous and well worth it. But then it's also got the touching, really good, heartfelt adventure style stories. So this is that good stuff, man. This is that good stuff. All right. Everyone, thank you very much for watching this episode of Trade Talk. I'll be continuing Silver Surfer next week and the week after that and the week after that until I'm done with it. So hope to see you there. Hope you had a good time. And until next time, bye. And on that note, I'm also done with comic reviews and I need to get going. So you guys have a good night.